Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you very much for the privilege to share this with you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, any questions? Please.
Professor, thank you so much for sharing a very fascinating story of application scenarios. If I were to ask you to be a consultant to Brexit right now and to get the UK itself with all the actions going in Europe, how would you go about the process? How long will it take? What are the key stakeholders? So tell us what the steps you would need in order for you to be able to gather and help the UK government get this act together.
Yeah, the steps are these steps. There's more or less 8 steps. It's those steps at the top there. And the first step is to get the right people in the room. So who would be the right people? Who would be the right people? Clearly it would be politicians. Clearly it would be societal representatives. Clearly it would be people from the labor unions. Clearly it would be from NGOs. But of course, it must have people from business. So having, and you would see in the Deno King scenario, we worked with sort of 35 people. 30 to 50 people would about be the sort of a number that you would, 50 the utmost. And them coming together, and in the Deno King scenario, there were 3 gatherings over a period of time of about 9 months. All good things happens in 9 months. So if you can't birth the scenarios in 9 months, then it would be too long. And it would be coming in cycles of like 3 months, 100 days, meeting work groups, representing back people, talking about that, and then refining the insights. But it's not about, as we've known, strategic planning for fixating on one future. This is about legitimately allowing people to talk about the other futures that might await us. And that is what makes scenarios such a non-threatening activity, because it legitimizing people talking about the downsides or the upsides of situations.
The trouble is, Prof, in Europe, the right people have just left the room.
Well, I think they're still politicians. So,
Any other questions?
Thank you, Professor. Lovely talk. And I do believe that South Africa did play out the scenarios very well. What I would like to understand is, does this also incorporate that there are different parts of the society? If I just take one example of haves and the have-nots, and the scenarios will actually play out differently for the two of them. So does the scenario planning exercise go to that level, or does it remain at that whole level?
I think if one looks at the pre-1994 scenario, there was clearly a scenario for the haves and what they would lose by not going an inclusive route. And what would be the consequences of a minority trying to rule a majority. So I think there's different dynamics in the in the post-1994, in the Deno King scenarios, and in the Cronje's scenarios, in the 2024 scenarios. There's definitely an attempt to project South Africa as one nation. But the consequences of policy failures on education, on job creation, on economic growth, of course, have devastating effects if you are poor. And yes, the rich, they are just a little bit not so rich. But clearly the consequences are different. But it's not, that would be the effects of this. It's not positioned when the scenarios that I've talked about see South Africa as one place. And it is prosperity for all, because that's so deep entrenched in our constitution. And we cannot sleep if we give up on that aspiration.
So our policy should not be cast in stone. Our policy should actually fit the momentum. Our policies need to change with the environment on the ground and change accordingly so that we do not leave the have-nots behind. We need to address their needs. The policy needs to address their needs at that point in time.
I think there are, if we talk about policies, your education policy should not change. Our education policy changed after about 8 years. Devastating effects. So we've got outcome-based education principles under a certain minister, and then we went back onto that. And today still we are suffering the consequences of bad policy decisions. But we are, on the other hand, we've had very good policies. In general, our economic policies are there, but we are not executing them in a coherent way. And there's infighting and differences and a lack of policy certainty that's clearly eroding the confidence on executing. So it is not a matter of the adaptation, it is the matter of your ability to appropriately make policy choices and your ability to execute those policies in an excellent way. Of course, you would always have economic cycles. That's part of, and yes, in general, then you would adopt your general policy approach, but that is reflected in the Minister of Finance broad 3-year plan. But again, the vision of 2030 stays. It might take us longer to get there because of economic realities, but we can never give up on that.
Ladies and gentlemen, maybe time for one more question. Good. In that case, Professor Rubira, thank you so much on behalf of the Center for African Studies for your willingness to come and share your time, your knowledge, your experience, your passion for Africa. The two of us see ourselves as Afro-optimists, ladies and gentlemen, and the reason is not very hard to see. We live in a wonderful continent. Something small from us to remind you about today, and we look forward to meeting you again here at the Center. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me 2 words of thanks as well. First of all, to IE Singapore. Jia, thank you so much for hosting us here. It's a great setup and your willingness from the beginning. When I asked you, Johan, no hassle. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I also like to extend a word of welcome with a thanks, not a welcome, with a thanks to you all for being willing to come today in this weather conditions, to come and listen about, in this specific instance, South Africa. But the purpose of the session is then Africa in general. So as we go along, we will move into other areas and more directly into business. On the 6th of September, this next session will be by Mr. Vikram Chand, who is the CEO of Vega Foods, and he will have a much more very specific business focus to how they have ventured into Africa, the challenges, the opportunities. So I look forward to seeing you all back again on the 6th of September. Actually seeing more of you as well on the 6th of September. So thank you for your presence today. Lord forgive me if I thank the African diplomatic corps who have been here today in quite strength. Thank you so much, ambassadors and other personnel. We really appreciate your supporting of the Center for African Studies. Ladies and gentlemen, please have a good day. Enjoy the rest of the day, enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you very much.